What's up, everyone? Legends,
Hello.
newcomers. My name is Baked Grou. I'm here with my Full Send Friday co-hosts, Dark Saber 113 and Darth Big Mike. Introduce yourself if you'd like.
Yes, so I am Dark Saber 113 or Dark Blade 113, as most people probably know. And I tested this game out at Gen Con originally with the demo decks, and then played a little bit more of the demos at PAX. Got some really cool promos from that. But yeah, ever since I played at Gen Con, I was just absolutely hooked on this game. I've had a ton of fun with some pre-releases as well as some constructed events at my locals, and I was not expecting Set 2 stuff to drop so soon, so this is very exciting and still figuring stuff out, but the game is so much fun.
I am the Senate. But no, everybody knows me as Big Mike. I think it's Sidious256 on the Discord. I also, oddly enough, Zach was like, or Dark Saber 113 was like, yo, there's this trading card game at Gen Con, and I really want to try it. And then my friend Tommy Elliott, also known as John, was like, "Hey, Mike," and I know him personally. Was like, "Do you want to go sign that up? We like Star Wars." And I was like, "I've never played a trading card game before." God's honest truth. And we both looked at each other midway through playing, and we're like, "We're going to spend a lot of money, aren't we?" And here we are, spending lots of money playing this amazing game. So that's basically it.
Can
Yeah.
confirm I've sold this man a couple Vaders, so he's definitely
It's true.
putting some money down there.
It's all right.
We are currently three of the top 19 players from Bland, Missouri. So that definitely gives us a little bit of credibility.
Yeah.
I am a vigilance boy. I want to make double blue chariot work so badly, but it's just not good. So maybe this set will give it some tools. Zach, what color combination do you like to play?
Anything with Hera.
Okay, a Spectre Boyo. What
Yeah,
about you?
I've been having fun with green blue hair right now that has a lot of force synergies. So that's been kind of what I've been messing around with, though. I'm a little bit interested in some like Grand Inquisitor stuff, so I'm gonna dive into that soon.
It binds all
Yeah.
things. What about you, Darth Big Mike?
Oh, Darth Big Mike loves the green, blue, black. I love green, blue, black so much. And the leaders are interchangeable. I've been a big Tarkin fan, and I've been a big Palpatine guy lately. And I'm thinking Palpatine's gonna be like something that can be good in the future. Um, and then something that can continuously be great while Tarkin's kind of stuck in that Imperial era. So as more sets come out, he probably gets kind of lower on the tier list, and Palpatine probably I think will stay consistent throughout. So we'll see.
Yeah. Do you ever think about running like a blue leader with black green?
Uh, for the ECL alone, it's worth it. I think that's fair. The Electro Conversion Lab or whatever it's called, I forget the name of it off the top of my head. But it's insane base. It's probably the best base. It's probably worth more than all the other bases combined, if you ask me. But the one I like more so is Iden than Krennic. I think Krennic's incredible, especially if you can put Electro Staffs on him in Devotion. But Iden's like just got the, I mean, the free pass every turn, whether you heal or not, to just decide something so they can't just initiative, and then you can still do your thing. That's incredible. But anyway, that's that yeah, I think they're good, but not as good as Tarkin or Palpatine. Not even close.
We are getting more insight than I thought we would in this series already.
Sorry.
No, you're good. I don't know what's gonna happen. I just hit record and you started singing Aladdin.
That's how it happens.
The whole point of this series is kind of just like a weekly spoiler check-in on the set to, what is it called, Shadows of the Galaxy?
Shadows over the Galaxy, yeah.
Over. Gotcha. Um, we're just gonna talk about some spoilers. I'm gonna bring some friendos in that play the game with me, and we're just gonna shoot the shit. Um,
I love it.
so without further ado, let's take a look at the two leaders they released today. Dark Saber, would you like to read Moff Gideon?
Sure, I'll take a crack at this guy. So, got Moff Gideon, formidable commander, and he has an action that doesn't cost any resources, which is always nice. You do have to exhaust him though, and when you use the action, you attack with a unit that costs 3 or less, and if it's attacking a unit, it gets +1/+0 for this attack. And then he flips on 5 resources. We'll look at his ability shortly, but just looking at that action on the leader side, um, I think that this is something that I know we talked about a little bit in our channel, talking about the spoilers when they first showed up, but it kind of feels like he does the kind of thing that IG-88 wants to do without having some of the drawbacks of IG-88, as far as like the body itself. He comes out on 5 as well, so like early leaders I found can be really big, especially against an opponent who's not ramping. So if you get this guy out like a whole turn or two ahead of your opponent's leader, you can start to do some work. So yeah, I think just right off the bat, this opens up a lot of interesting deck building options with what we already have, and of course what we'll be getting in the second set as well.
Mm-hmm. Darth Big Mike, do you have any initial thoughts about Moff Gideon?
I have a lot, if I'm being honest, and I don't know if we have enough time for that. So, the first thing that I will say is there's a lot of focus around these units that are 3 or less or power or less. So I think that's incredible. And also, when he comes out, he gains Overwhelm. So and each friendly unit that costs 3 or less gains Overwhelm. So, like, when I'm thinking myself, blue, green, blue, black, I'm thinking Scout Bike immediately comes to my mind. And then imagine if you put something like an Electro Scaff on that Scout Bike. It's still a 3 cost. And then you still get all this crazy stuff. And it gets hit +1. If it has 3 damage on it, that's incredible. Like, I think it's incredible. And then, like, Fifth Brother immediately comes to mind if you want to run a little bit of it. There's a lot there going on there. So I think he's going to actually be fairly solid. But that's just first takes. You never know until you actually go to the board.
I'm very curious to see like how necessarily good or bad that like friendly unit that costs 3 or less stipulation is. The art is actually very evocative because it makes me want to run him with just a bunch of like tiny little shitty trooper dudes that can just trade into my opponent's board favorably with the +1 attack, and then overwhelm. Just any little chip damage will probably help. I just wonder if he will be good enough in that later stage of the game where you start playing like 4, 5, 6 drops, or your opponent is at least. Like if you're just playing a bunch of like tiny little shitty dudes, like will you be able to compete? But
Yeah,
Dark
it isn't
Saber said,
green.
ramping definitely gets that out early, which
Yeah, it is in green, which means that you can definitely include some of that top end, and then just have kind of the stuff on the bottom. I mean, it's almost in a way similar to how I've seen some Palp decks built, where you have the cheap guys early on to fuel into his ability, and then you ramp and you drop a bunch of big things. So I don't think Gideon will necessarily be pigeonholed into only running small stuff. I think you can have a mix. You're definitely going to want a good amount of small stuff so you can actually benefit from his ability. But another route that you can take, which kind of has shades of like Tarkin or Krennic as well, is you can maybe lean a little bit more into upgrades, because if you upgrade a small guy to make him this big, beefy unit, he still benefits from Gideon's stuff, because all it cares about is the cost of the unit. So, you could turn, just looking at his art, you could turn like a Death Trooper, who's normally a 3/3, into an absolute monster with like an Electro Staff and maybe some XP from other stuff, and then you're just swinging in with this gigantic guy that has Overwhelm now. So that's another route that you could kind of look at. Though you will, of course, have to worry about upgrade hate if it becomes too common in the meta.
this set definitely seems like it's leaning a little bit towards the upgrade hate. So we'll see how that line of counterplay develops as the set goes on.
Definitely.
Big Mike, any more thoughts on the non-Tarkin Moff?
Yeah, the non-target Moth. He's got 6 health, so he can't be taken down right away. Is always a good feeling. Um, I think 3/6 is an incredible stat line for a 5 cost. I think that's going to be very, very good. I think. Look, I'm just echoing what's been said. So before we keep going on in circles about it, I think he will be something where you have an early game presence and a super late game presence, and your mid range will be crap. So how do you stall out until you can get to that late part? Um, and I guess we'll find out how. I mean, as the set evolves more, I think they've done a fairly good job, other than making aggression absolutely nutty in the first set, of just being great. So we'll see. They do a pretty good job. I don't think it's bad by any means. So
Keep fighting is probably going to be pretty good with him.
yeah,
Yeah,
there's gonna be
yeah,
there's gonna be a lot that's I think great with him. I think upgrades and events as more sets go on will be much more valuable, and he's one of the first ones to show it. Right, like your 3 cost is now your Death Star Stormtrooper is now Rick the Door Technician, and he's ready to spread some overwhelm to everybody. So, anyways, I probably a good time to move on to the next guy, huh?
Yeah. Do you want to read the Mandalorian's leader card, Big Mike?
Big Mike can't read.
All right, Zach, we are calling upon you again.
All right, I got you. All right, so we got the Mandalorian here. Sworn to the Child. I love that subtitle. When you play an
Read, right?
upgrade, you may exhaust this leader. If you do, exhaust an enemy unit with 4 or less remaining HP. So this is quite interesting to me, just because this kind of combines a couple of things that we've seen already. The exhaust is very heavy yellow, so it definitely makes sense that he is base yellow for his aspect. And then the thing that keys off of something having 4 or less remaining HP has a lot of stuff that currently is like vigilance focused, right? Where you've got takedown, you have vigilance itself, which can do something similar. And I think we know that the pairing for him in the starter decks is vigilance. So you're getting little bit of that in the leader as well. And it's interesting that it's keying off of cost or HP instead of cost, which a lot of the other things care about. Like there's the spacer that exhausts something that costs 4 or less. And so the thing that jumps out to me right away is this is an ability that can hit opposing leaders if they're low enough. Some leaders will be able to hit naturally, like Iden or IG88, even if they're full health, as long as they don't have like an upgrade buffing their HP or XP or something. But this can also hit other leaders if you've done a bit of damage to them, or perhaps if you lower their stats for the round, which a few cards do. I do find that quite interesting, and I think it can be pretty strong as long as there's enough upgrades to support it. So that's going to be like the key thing, and I think we'll see a lot more upgrades in yellow in this set, because I don't think there's too many in the first one. The only ones that are coming to mind at the moment are snapshot reflexes and the smuggling compartment. I might be forgetting some, but I know that there weren't a ton, because I was actually just talking about it the other day, where there was like a yellow red deck someone was trying to make with upgrade stuff, and they didn't have very many options from Spark Rebellion. So yeah, I think as long as we see the upgrade support, which I'd be very surprised if we don't, given this guy is one of the starter deck leaders, I think it seems like a pretty strong ability to have.
I don't like that he comes out on 6, though.
Yeah, I mean the 5 versus 6 is always a big break point. I will say though, if you're exhausting things, it does buy you a lot of time to get there, because like yellow can already deal decently well with some of the aggro speed stuff that's out there, just by making it as annoying as possible to get any damage through early, and then you start laying down big stuff and getting your leaders out a turn later than someone like Boba, for example, who's running a lot of yellow stuff right now, is a big deal. But when you deploy to the field, you're 4/7, which is pretty standard stat line for a 6 cost. And your ability is similar, but it's actually better now, because now you can exhaust things when you play an upgrade that have 6 or less remaining HP. And notably, this now is not a once per turn thing, whereas on his leader side, you can only do it once per turn, since you have to exhaust him to do it. But when you're on his unit side, he can do it whenever you play an upgrade. So theoretically, you could get multiple exhausts the turn he comes out, both from his leader thing before you deploy him, but at least what it looks like here, it looks like you pretty much want to deploy him as early as possible, just so you can get the bigger range, because this is going to exhaust leaders a lot more consistently than the 4 HP will.
And that's actually a pretty insane distinction to make, because a lot of like targeted removal specifics or specifies non-leader units, whereas this just works on any old asshole. So I feel like if white yellow got kind of like an exhaustion payoff like the unit Boba does for yellow black, that would make something like this really good. Because my first thought when I read this card was, oh, that's gonna be insane with Boba Fett, and then I realized those are villainy versus heroism, so it's like probably not gonna see that much play like that. But
just play it in yellow green and ramp him out with U-Wing. Put those Bobas in your deck. You know, maybe if you need to play him for 5, he might still be okay. He's insane at 3. So,
but yeah, that definitely, like, the unit Boba falls in line with what yellow wants to do with just exhaustion and being annoying. And so now heroism cunning gets a slice of the pie. Michael, thoughts?
Well, the first thing I thought was, I saw that it said "sworn to the creed" as the subtext, and the very first thing I thought was, "Can you take me higher to a place where blind men see?" Okay, but now that we're done with that, I looked at the upgrade thing, and then I looked at the flip, and the first thing that comes to my mind is when he comes out at 6. Everything probably has 6 or less HP. I'm assuming, for the most part, we'll have 6 or less HP for the most part. I think I can safely say that. Traitorous is an upgrade. So you can take their card, put it on your side, and exhaust their other card. And if you're playing against Gideon, who cares about 3-cost characters, you're in a good spot. Now, you'd have to play green-yellow, which is, I think, would be considered a kind of weird combination for the most part, unless you're villainy. I mean, you can do like a Han green is okay, but as more cards come out, we'll find out what's best for him. But that's the first thing that came to my mind. The second thing is, without getting too far into the video, there's going to be characters you want to put lightsabers on, and lightsabers are an upgrade, and that's going to be, I think, incredible. So I do think upgrades are going to be great, because I think blue is full of upgrades right now in the first set, right? You got Resilient, Electro Staff, which is my personal favorite, Devotion. They're all upgrades. So him pairing with blue just makes the most sense. But then what if you do a Traitorous, and then that just changes the whole game, because you basically did a 3-for-1, right? Like, you took their card, exhausted a unit, probably kill their card with their own card. Feels good, man. But here we are. Like you said, 6 is a little expensive, but that's probably because his ability is semi-bonkers and his stat line's pretty good. But other than that, yeah, I'm excited to see what he can pair with. I feel like he has more options than Gideon right now. As of right now, if they both came out today, if they're both, hey, this is in set 1, I feel much more comfortable with Mandalorian than Gideon, I feel. Just based on a couple things. So we'll see.
They're definitely going to make, like, Mandalorian armor as an upgrade, right?
I mean, I'd be very surprised if they don't. We riot if they don't.
If Beskar armor is not something that gives you like +2 on defense or +3 on defense, I'd be highly surprised.
Do I need to watch the show to play this character?
I mean, it'd make you feel a lot cooler, probably.
Did you just be a lot cooler if you did me?
Yeah, be a lot cooler if you did.
Oh boy. All right, let's move on to the pure villainy card that was revealed. Gideon's Light Cruiser. Darksaber as our resident reader, take it away.
Yes, so Gideon's light cruiser here, the Dark Trooper station. We've got a 8 cost villainy unit, so pretty pricey. And for that, you get a 7/8. It has Imperial Vehicle and Capital Ship tag, and then it's got Overwhelm. And when played, if you control Moff Gideon as the leader or unit, you can play a villainy unit that costs 3 or less from your hand or discard pile for free. So yeah, this is definitely a card that, if you can get to it, seems quite strong. I mean, a 7/8 in space is already quite large. The Overwhelm is nice because if you need to go through Sentinels or smaller things in space, it's great. It's not going to quite pair up to some of the big Star Destroyers, but it's not far off. And of course, if you play it in Gideon, or I suppose when we eventually get a unit Gideon, whether that'll be this set or a future one, who's to say, just because Fett's Fire Spray does reference Django, and we didn't have him in the first set, but he'll eventually be there. But obviously in Gideon Leader, this synergizes great because you're going to have stuff that costs 3 or less anyway, just to pair with Gideon and his abilities. So getting to play stuff for free is always nice, especially something that you've already used in the game, so you're not like taking resources away from your hand. You're able to just recycle things that were already used. But of course, if you have to drop it from hand, that's not terrible either. So seems like one of those things where if you can get to these amount of resources, that it's a pretty strong contender, even if it does have a lot of competition at the high end with the big Star Destroyers.
Michael, you're big. What do you think about this big ship?
I love it. I actually like it a lot. First thing that comes to mind is I'm going to assume that Moff Gideon unit, which as it states, he will be, right, or unit. I think he's going to be a 3 cost, just period. I would assume he's a 3 cost. I think that I'm not going to safely bet that, but that's going to be my hero call of the week. If you want,
Your
maybe we
villainy
can do
call
that
of
as
the
a
week.
segment, huh? Villainy call of the week. Villainy call of the week. He's going to be a 3 cost. If you have this Gideon leader out, like maybe you hold out till 8 when you want to bring out your actual Gideon, and then you have a Royal Guard in your discard or hand, that's going to be an incredible combo because Royal Guard's really good at 3. And to play it for free from your hand or discard, that's going to be good. Also, bringing in Death Troopers to just deal 2 damage out of, from the top rope, and then turn around and, do whatever is needed. I think that's going to be great. I like that it's Imperial. And it is a capital ship. We haven't found out what capital ships do yet, but it's going to be something big. And I'm waiting for the Executor.
We know what they do. They make your opponent capital
What do they
ship
do?
their pants.
Ah, damn it, Taylor.
He's not wrong.
Did you see how much like seriousness he had in his like? What do you mean you don't know what they do?
Yeah, that is a tag I'm excited to see the further purpose of.
So what do you think about it, Taylor? Like, what are your initial thoughts?
I like it. I know. I mean, you're probably gonna just run this in a Moff Gideon leader deck because it has that synergy for free, basically. And like Zach said, you're probably ramping in a deck like that, so it's probably coming out like a turn or 2 earlier than it otherwise would, which I think would be really scary if you play this when your opponent is at 7 or even 6 resources. You put a big body in space, probably a little Chungus on the ground, and that just feels like really good from like a value standpoint, I feel. And if you're not in a position to lose right when you play this card, I think it will put you in a great position to win. Especially, I love the like overwhelm commonness in Moff Gideon's deck. I feel like that's really good for trading while also progressing your win condition, just killing your opponent. So I feel like if you're ever able to like actually stabilize as him, you're already going to be ahead in terms of like damage on your opponent's base. So actually, the more cards we see that kind of go with this guy, the more excited I am to play him.
It's very
Yeah,
thematic, I feel,
that's how
too. That's something that they
very
nail a
thematic.
lot, is they get the feel of the characters down really well.
And one last thing I want to say about it too, it's aspectless for the most part, right? Like it's not bound to yellow, blue, green, or red, which I think something like the Chimera is what fails at, is that it's stuck to yellow. So I think Chimera is a great Star Destroyer. I think I'm pronouncing that right. I could be wrong, but it being yellow and villainy other than Boba going yellow, black, and then you wouldn't add that in Boba's deck for much any reason. You basically hold it only to Thrawn. Um, it's tough, right? So we'll see. We'll see as time goes on. So I'm really glad it's aspectless, is what I'm getting at.
All right, Zach, kick us off with the Mandalorian's Rifle.
Oh, let's go. Yeah, so we got the Mandalorian's Rifle here. 3-cost heroism card. Attached to a friendly non-vehicle unit. It is an upgrade, of course. And when played, if attached unit is the Mandalorian, he captures an exhausted enemy non-leader unit. And then explaining what captured does, you put the captured card face down under him until he leaves play. It has the item and weapon tag and gives +3 attack and no health. So yeah, this is not only a really cool upgrade, which of course goes great with the passive ability on the Mandalorian, but it's kind of like the Luke and Vader lightsabers, where if you play it on him specifically, you can play it on other things, but they'll only get the +3/+0. They won't get the extra effect. And the extra effect also reveals a new mechanic that's going to be in this set, which is capturing. So it's basically a way to temporarily remove an opposing unit until they're able to deal with your guy that the upgrade's on. Or, I'm sure we'll see other capture stuff that maybe they'll just have it innately or what have you. So a really cool mechanic that not only has really good flavor, but seems quite strong, because not only are you buffing one of your guys, and if you're putting this on Mando himself, the leader, it's turning him to a 7/7. You're exhausting something with up to 6 HP, and then you're also capturing something else. And all it says is that it's an exhausted enemy non-leader unit, so there's no restriction on that. So you could capture like a Star Destroyer with this, which is pretty hilarious.
It just fits it right into his back pocket.
Yo. So yeah, no, really cool equipment for sure, and I can't wait to see more of these types of upgrades in this set.
Would that mean that when it's captured, if he gets removed from the table, they go back to their board exhausted, or
That's how I
you
believe
know?
it works. Yeah, I think they talked about it a little bit on the stream, and I believe that is they go back exhausted, and they also noted that it's not like entering play again, so you won't get like win played abilities. So it's not a detriment to capture something that has a win played ability, because you won't be giving that to your opponent again. In fact, it actually seems quite good to capture things that have win defeated abilities, because if they want to get those off, they have to get rid of your guy and then find a way to defeat their own guy. So you slow that kind of stuff down a lot.
EJ Death Star value going down.
Yo.
Yikes. I, for one, am like slightly hesitant at the effectiveness, like overall, of just like capturing something instead of killing it. But I know there's probably going to be more like capture synergy cards that come into play. And especially for like the leader Mando. Yellow just wants to like stall your opponent as much as possible. And this definitely seems like almost like a more annoying waylay, since you, you can't just play the unit immediately. You have to deal with this now 7/7 idiot before you can actually.
And it's a lot better to deal with things that have the win played compared to like balancing it with waylay, because you potentially give them value by getting the win played effects again. So yeah, definitely an interesting mechanic that I think, if this was the only thing that we saw, it'd be pretty restrictive, because it has to be on Mando, and the unit does have to be exhausted. But yeah, mechanic, I'm sure, will be built out a lot more as we see more stuff from the set. So I'll be interested to see like kind of what stuff seems good and what stuff seems just kind of meh, and how it plays out. I also think it would be a thing where I'd have to look at the timing for stuff, but I am interested when you play an upgrade and when played. How I read it, that should probably be in the same timing window. So I think you could even exhaust their thing with Mando's ability and then steal it with, or then capture it with the rifle. I don't know for sure, but the way I read it, I think you'd be able to order those in whatever way you want. So if something was ready that you wanted to take, you could theoretically exhaust it with Mando first and then capture it with the rifle's effect.
From like a feels good gameplay standpoint, I hope the card works like that.
Yeah.
But we'll see. We'll have Jason read the comprehensive rules and get back to us next week.
Yes.
Yeah, for sure.
All right, let's take a look. Do we want to go all villainy first, or just go in the aspects from left to right?
Let's we go in the aspects personally, but what do you guys think?
Zach, the one that has to read them. So.
It's true. We did kind of back and forth with the others, so we can do by aspect. I think that seems to fit.
Grogu.
Let's go.
There he is.
It's the Grogu himself. Let's see, unresistible for the the tagline. That's great. It is a 2-cost cunning heroism unit with 0 attack and 5 health. Does have the force tag, so that's definitely relevant. That's something that you look at a lot for the cards that care about having a force unit. In the Hera deck I've been playing recently, you basically just want as many that you can get down early as possible, like 2 cost, 3 cost, a couple 4 costs, but you want to definitely establish one within the first turn or two. And I gotta say, 5 health is a lot to get through, especially this early. Even some of the best like 2-drops are not going to be able to take care of him. Now, of course, he doesn't deal any damage back innately, so you are going to be able to attack into him without taking any damage on your units, but he's going to take a bit to deal with, especially because he has an action where he can exhaust and then exhaust an enemy unit. And again, there's no restriction on this, so it doesn't have to be a certain cost. It doesn't have to be a certain health threshold. It could be a leader even. So Grogu seems like he's going to be a menace, especially if you can get those force synergies with him. So this unit looks absolutely incredible and synergizes very well with the stuff that Mando is doing as well, with just trying to exhaust and stall out the board to set up the kind of stuff that you're wanting to, and maybe even capture opposing units with stuff like the rifle.
Yeah, seems like it fits right at home in a Mando deck, and I would not be surprised if we got like 15 different Grogus this set, just so they can put him on all the deck boxes and card sleeves and sell stuff to everyone that likes Baby Yoda.
Yeah.
But I do like what you brought up about it being like a force unit, because especially just putting things like lightsabers and being able to use like it binds all things and one with the force on a unit that you'll put down early and will most likely stick around for a while. Something that can't be immediately taken down. Like, it's just... Michael, what do you have to say about the little guy?
I think he's going to be nuts. I do, because I think there's just so much stuff you can do with him. If you just want him as an exhaust unit, like, or to like just exhaust everybody the whole time, probably what's better against aggression, especially early. I think he's going to be great. I think his cost is what really makes him just outstanding. You can play him turn 1 and he's 5 health. Not much can deal with that right away. And then turn 2, you have your choice. Do I want to turn him into something that I can attack with? So put a Jedi lightsaber on him, which in fact would give the opponent -2. I mean, he's going to be an early game menace if he can get a lightsaber on him right away.
What could go wrong?
Yeah, give the kid a lightsaber. What can go wrong? Exactly. I mean, even an electro staff, so that he takes -1 when he's getting attacked. and then you can still just use him to try to exhaust as much as you can. He's going to be a staple of, I think, a lot of decks, especially, I mean, heroism decks. I think he's good. He fits almost anywhere. I really do. Do I think he's worth 4 cost? I wouldn't. I wouldn't think so. But is he worth 2? Absolutely. I mean, it's still that weird kind of area, right? Like where you're like, well, what else can I fit in here? He always fits there. Always, every time. I think he's going to be perfect.
Yeah,
So
I've
we'll
found
see.
that anything that can deal with like cross arena is really nice because he can exhaust space stuff too.
Yeah, I mean, it's his. What's that saying? Like the opportunities are endless, or the
Very high
options are,
ceiling, yeah.
yeah, super high ceiling on what he can do. And he's just for 5 health so cheap early. I mean, people don't even really want to deal with a 5 health unit on turn 8 because it's just out there. And then him being a 0 back is perfect until you throw a lightsaber on him. Then you screwed up. So we'll see.
Menace. There is one neutral, no, I don't know what to call it, but non-heroism, non-villainy. We'll call it a Bendu card.
Yes.
For cunning. It is called
Although
Wanted.
Bendu doesn't like this one. It's already a 0. He can't discount it, brother. Speaking of nuts, though, this card, I'll read it out here. But then our buddy Lucio in the Discord channel, he just recently highlighted something he found out that you can do with this card that is disgusting. So this is Wanted. It's a 0 cost upgrade, just cunning for the aspect. And attached unit gains bounty, ready to friendly resources. So bounty is going to be a new keyword. That's one of the other mechanics in this set. And the way that bounty works is when this unit is defeated or captured, its opponent collects its bounty. So in this case, you put this on a unit, presumably an opposing unit, though I suppose, or no, you'd want to put it on an opposing unit because it's always the opponent that collects it. So if you put it on your own thing, it's going to help your opponent, which you probably don't want. So you're going to put this on an opposing unit, and then whenever it is defeated or is captured, you get to ready 2 of your resources. So this doesn't ramp you, but like Boba, it lets you do more on your turns than you would otherwise be able to. Now, as far as the stuff you can play, you're still going to be restricted to the, however many resources you have. So you're not going to be able to get like, a 5 drop out before you have 5 resources because there's no way to carry it over. But just getting more juice out of your turns can be really good, as we've seen in some of the crazy turns that Boba can have. And speaking of Boba, this is the thing that Lucio pointed out to me. So this card enables the leader Boba to come out onto the board on turn 2. So the way that you do this is on turn 2, you play this on an opponent's unit. So you have 3 resources at the start of that turn, since you start with 2 and then you resource 1 at the end of the first turn. You play this on an opposing unit, and then you use ECL to rush out a super laser technician. And he presumably trades with the thing that this is on. So it does require something that the DJ Death Star can trade with. But if that works, then you ready 2 resources that 2 of the 3 resources you paid for the super laser tech with this thing. When the opposing unit dies, then the super laser tech goes in as another ready resource. So that would give you 3 resources ready, but because you're playing Boba, you can exhaust him to ready that 4th resource. Though that isn't strictly necessary because you only need 3 resources to play resupply, which will get you to 5 resources, and now you can deploy Boba on turn 2 and attack with him to ready 2 resources. So if you've done all the rest of the stuff, you'll have 3 more resources ready, meaning that theoretically, between Super Laser Tech resupply and the 3 resources you have after Boba's attack, you could play 9 resources worth of cards on the second turn while having a leader Boba on the board. So, yeah, that's a little bit, dream scenario, because you need 3 specific cards for it to work, and your opponent to have played something that Super Laser Tech can trade with. But the fact that it's possible is terrifying to me, and seems fun to figure out those types of combos.
you don't really need something he needs to trade with either. As long as you put a unit out on the board turn 1, you're still good, right? I mean,
You'd need to kill
if you
whatever
put
you
out,
put wanted on.
Yeah, because you need to kill
yeah,
what you put
so
wanted on, and then the DJ Death Star needs to die as well.
yeah, so let's say turn 1, you put out Colonel Sanders, and then so you're playing Colonel Sanders, right? And he's a 2/3, and then they put down a 2/3. Your turn 1, you can hit the 2/3 with your 2/3, so it's at 1 health. Then ECL your super dude, they both die,
Yeah,
or
yeah.
wanted.
If you if
So
you
you
if you
don't
play a guy
necessarily need
turn one
something
to
that,
help, yeah, that's fair. I
yeah.
see what you're saying. Yeah.
If someone ever pulled that combo on me, I think I'd go back to Lorcana forever.
Yeah.
I would say
As
I
crazy as it
scoop and then
sounds,
walk out of the game store.
there's a situation that I wanted to run with a Palpatine deck, kind of going on a sidetrack here, with yellow green, where you sneak attack turn 1 into a super laser tech, and then try to kill their unit. And then on turn 2, you super laser tech and then kill the super laser tech with your ability. And I thought that would never happen. And then when it did happen, it's happened twice now. I've done it. And you want to talk about the best feeling in the world.
That's a lot of
You're at
nickels.
like, it's a lot of nickels. If I had a nickel, there was so many nickels. So I'm not saying it's out of the possibility of something like that to happen, is what I'm getting at. Yeah, it's a dream scenario, but I've lived a dream scenario and it feels good. So here we are.
So yeah, this card definitely has a lot of like dream combo potential, and I feel like it'll work really well in like that mid-range Boba deck that just will ready a bunch of resources and just outvalue you by doing twice as much as you do on like turn
Yeah,
5.
I think even without the crazy combo shenanigans, it could still be pretty solid. It's hard to evaluate fully just because um it's going to be the question of, is it worth a card slot if you're not doing anything like super degenerate with it, because all it does is it's like I spent a card from my hand to ready 2 of my resources, um as long as I can kill the opposing unit. Now, you can essentially bank like for future turns as well. Like if the thing doesn't die right away, you could maybe set up to take advantage of those extra resources on a future turn, but it starts to get really weird and awkward. But outside of someone like Boba, it gives other yellow leaders, whether that be villainy or heroism, access to uh, Boba type shenanigans, not as consistently perhaps, but in a way. So I might not be surprised if it's maybe seeing more outside of him. And I suppose it's not even restricted to yellow leaders, because as long as you're playing yellow in the deck, you can play this. So I think it'll be one of those where it's hard to evaluate now outside of those combo scenarios, but seems like it could be something neat and is a nice way to show off the bounty mechanic, because that will be something that I'm sure we'll see a lot of moving forward.
And it
I should
also
work with Boba Fett, right? Bounty Hunter. I mean, I
Yeah.
think the Boba deck's just going to really want this.
Mhm.
Period. Just
Yeah.
end a sentence. Ready for resources. Who doesn't want that?
Yeah, seriously.
it also works when the unit is captured. So depending
Yes,
on
which is really cool.
how easy it is to do that, you may not even need to kill whatever you put it on.
Yep.
Yeah. All right. Next card, first card for Vigilance, is Calculated Lethality. Take it away, Zach.
Some awesome art here. So this is a 4-cost vigilance villainy event. It has the tactic keyword, which I don't think we've seen any payoff for, but there's a lot of them. So whenever it does come around, I'm looking out for that. But its effect is defeat a non-leader unit that costs 3 or less. For each upgrade that was on that unit, give an experience token to a friendly unit. So a few things. This kind of throws a wrench in the plan of the Gideon stuff that I was talking about earlier, because he's going to have the 3 cost or less stuff. And one of the routes that I was talking about getting out of the early game is putting upgrades, whether that be actual cards or XP, stuff like that. And not only are you defeating the unit and getting it out of the way, especially if it was being problematic, but you're also getting a payoff from it as well if it was beefed up. So this thing seems like it's really good against potential Gideon strategies. This might keep them somewhat in check. It's more upgrade hate. So, stuff like Tarkin is naturally just going to not love playing against this because XP does count as upgrades. So if he tries to build a Rick the Door technician up, he's going to be very sad when you play this on him. But the fact that it can't target leaders or things that cost more than 3 means that there is counterplay to it, which is always nice to see. So definitely a card that's going to make people think twice about loading up a dude when they're up against blue-black opponent. So definitely a really cool card. Again, depending on how prevalent upgrades are, this might be more of a sideboard card, but it does just seem really nice. Just even if they don't have upgrade stuff, like it's still solid removal. It's a bit more targeted, which leads me to think it'll be more of a sideboard card. Because I also feel like with this, if this is anywhere close to like playable in the meta, it's going to keep upgrade stuff in check to a degree at least, because if you go too hard in that strategy, this is just going to blow you out. So really cool card design overall, and something that I think is nice to see.
Michael, you're a blue-black kind of player. How do you see this?
I'm salivating at this card right now. And it was our friend Lucio who, once again, we're mentioning, kind of mentioned something, and then I really dove into it more. It says defeat a non-leader unit that costs 3 or less. It doesn't specify an enemy. And for each upgrade, give an experience token to a friendly. So if you're playing Tarkin and you made your TIE fighter that's in space sitting alone, well, you might want that TIE fighter that's hitting a 5 to their base every turn at this point, because they don't have a way to deal with it, to just get cut off. There's a part of me that wants to bring out Leader Tarkin, kill it with this, and then turn around and I moved the card. I'm sorry. Turn around and put it all on Tarkin. So now all the experience that I've put on my unit gets transferred to my leader, which, as we know, is pretty incredible when a leader, as of now, when a leader gains some sort of upgrade, because it's hard to get it off leaders. We know aggression has some of that. We know, some other things here and there, but you can't waylay a leader to just take all the stuff off, or you can't just, hey, vanquish it. You have to do something more. Maybe as the set goes out, this set comes out more, we see a lot of this set being upgraded, focused. We'll have something that works directly on leaders. But I love this idea, especially as a blue Tarkin player. This would be in my deck, 3 of these, and I'm just waiting, and I'm hoping that I can make a Rick the Door technician, and I'm just hoping that you can't take it out in any way. And then when Tarkin comes out and Hask comes out, we're going to be feeding each other. And what are you going to do about it? Like, how are you going to stop me? And you just feel like you're unbeatable. So I can go on for a long time about this one card, I feel. So, but again, 3 or less. That's what it keeps coming down to. So anyways, on to you, Taylor. What do you think, Mr. Baked SkateGoods?
Yeah, it's pretty good. I do kind of side with Darkblade when he says it's going to be slightly more niche, but like blue-black is one of my favorite color combinations. Besides like red-white. And I love just the plethora of removal options they have. They have like Power of the Dark Side, this, Takedown, Vanquish, Super Laser Blast. It seems like they will have like a whole toolbox for removal. And like Zach said, you can sideboard some more specific things in, and depending on the matchup you're in, really get a ton of value out of this if necessary. And I like experience tokens, so. All right, the first Vigilance Heroism card we have is Razor Crest. Zachary?
All right, we got the Razor Crest, the reliable gunship. It's a 4-cost Vigilance Heroism unit, and it's a space unit. It has 3 attack, 4 health. The traits are Mandalorian, Vehicle, and Transport. I'm sure we'll see more of that Mandalorian tag in this set, hopefully with some support as well. And then the text on it, it's got Restore 2. And then when played, you may return an upgrade from your discard pile to your hand. So just looking at this initially, it seems like a pretty solid rate overall. And what really sticks out to me is the Restore 2. Um, Restore 2 is quite a bit. I've definitely been getting a lot of use out of the Yoda unit in that force focus deck, and being in space as well is nice just because I feel like in general there's just a little bit less space overall, so your opponent might find it a little bit harder to deal with this than ground units generally. And of course, it's got a little bit of that synergy with the upgrade stuff because you can get an upgrade back from discard pile to your hand. So this could be nice getting back an upgrade that was on a unit that you lost early. This means that even later in the game, this can be like just decent. Um, I'll be interested to see like more cheap upgrades to make this fully worth it. But looking at the wanted that we went over, like that's already one that is cheap, so you can get it down early, but get some benefit out of it. And then whenever you capture or defeat the opposing unit, it's going to go to your discard. So it's one that you can get back and easily play again to set yourself up more in the future. So a lot of uses for this, a lot of upgrades, and I'm sure a lot more that we'll see in this set. So definitely a really neat unit that seems pretty solid, but hard to say fully without knowing the rest. But just the base rate and Restore 2 is great in my opinion.
I was just about to add how it seems like a card that would fit into the starter deck because of how it synergizes with the Mandalorian, and then I looked in the bottom right corner and saw that it had an S for starter deck. So
Yep.
Some things just write themselves, and it seems definitely like it would fit right in like a Mandalorian based.
Yeah, I think all
deck.
the cards we've seen except Wanted so far are starter cards. So,
Yeah, fuck
and
you,
this might
Wanted.
be this very well might be in the deck as
Mm.
well. It just isn't starter deck exclusive.
Is the art on Wanted a guy seeing that he's wanted and getting scared?
Yes, yes. I think this might actually be from the first season of the show,
I think it's like the
where
first episode.
I think it might be the first episode where Mando basically walks up to the guy and shows him that he's got the puck with his bounty. So yeah, the guy is shipping his pants right now.
Damn. Mike, what do you think about the Razor?
It's good. There's just that's all. A 4 cost. I mean, 4 cost, 3/4, restore 2, return an upgrade. So, hey, you put that lightsaber on Grogu, they waylaid him, so the lightsaber's in the discard. Bring it right back. I mean, it goes to your hand, but I mean, it's all setting up to where it's like, here's Grogu, here's a lightsaber. Now I play Razor Crest if you somehow got rid of him. All right, cool. And if nothing else, you got the restore too. It's solid. I think we need somebody like I always call Jason my numbers guy because Jason will be like, hey, that Battlefield Marine is insane because of its value. A 3/3 for 2, that's nuts. You don't have to have text. Um, Boba Fett a 3/5. You don't have to have text for 3. Like it's just good. So stuff like that, where now you're adding restore. I think it's great because space is still kind of that weird spot, right? Like in my opinion, where there's nothing really crazy there until late game. So I mean, you got the Green Squad A ring, right? But there's nothing that's like, okay, I have to play this every time. Where you know something like Battlefield Marine, it's like, oh, I have this, I kind of have to play this right now because it's just too good. So maybe this could take that place. We'll see. We'll see.
Yeah. Next heroism vigilance card we have is the Mandalorian himself.
Let's go.
There he
All
is.
right. So we've got a unit for the Mandalorian. Wherever I go, he goes. 6 cost Vigilance Heroism unit with 5 attack, 6 health. has the Mandalorian and Bounty Hunter tags, has Sentinel as a keyword, and when played, you may heal all damage from a unit that costs 2 or less and give 2 shield tokens to it. So, a few things here. The fact
That's
that we're
nuts. Just
seeing,
alone.
yeah, yeah, like the stat line plus the ability and Sentinel, like comparing it to a unit that's already out there, not too far off from Obi-Wan as far as the cost and the stats. Does have one more attack. Um, but has Sentinel, and instead of a win defeated, has a win played. Now, of course, the Obi-Wan effect is really strong, but this gives you like immediate value. Can be quite good with someone like Grogu. Again, love that they're going for the theming there, because putting 2 shields on that guy is going to be very annoying to get him out of there if you don't have stuff like Waylay or something that just defeats him outright. But the other cool thing that I want to mention with this is we do see another way to trigger the Mandalorian's rifle, because this will work if you play the rifle on this unit as well as the leader. So you have 2 options, and it looks like we're seeing a similar thing that we did in Spark of Rebellion, where the starter deck leaders are getting units in the set as well. So I'd be very, very, very surprised if we do not see a Moff Gideon unit in the set as well. And it looks like they might also be following the pattern of the unit versions of the leaders from the starters being legendaries, because Mando here is legendary. So yeah, seems like a great unit just off the bat, especially if you play it in the Mando deck itself, because you're going to be able to pretty consistently get to this stage of the game if you're exhausting a bunch of stuff with Grogu and Mando's leader ability, and then you just get paid off with big stuff like this in the later game, and you can just kind of snowball from there.
Oh
I like
boy.
shields.
Yeah, I like trains. That's what. Good lord.
I just
Calculated lethality, though.
Yeah.
That's one to keep an eye out for, depending on,
I was gonna
because
say
you have to
that's
put
what
the
it's for,
shields
right?
on something that that calculated can hit. So it's not like you can play around it in the same way that you might be able to with other upgrades in XP and stuff, because the shields from Mando's ability have to go on something that is within range of the lethality. So definitely a cool little back and forth there.
Oh, goodbye, Mike. I remember. Welcome back, Sunshine. I remember when Palm and I were demoing the game at Gen Con, and we were only putting like 1 shield token on a unit at a time. And the guy teaching us the game comes over and just gives us a little smug little look, and he's like, "You can put multiple shield tokens on a unit. Oh, you didn't know that, you moron?" And I just like how this card clears up that confusion, because it explicitly states you can give 2 shield tokens to a unit. So kind of removes that question from the new player experience, which I like. And yeah, just I think this is a super strong card. A lot of times when blue white like gets to that end game, not end game, but like late mid game, where they start dropping like Obi-Wans and Luke's, the Mandalorian fits right in with there. Sentinel to protect your base. The effect protects some other valuable low cost unit you have on the board. Just chef's kiss. Does everything you could ask for and more. And you put a
Do you
rifle
guys
on
remember
it.
the first? Do you remember the first time reading Kanan, his card, and you were like, "Wait, this guy's a 4/4, and he does all that."
4/5
That's what I feel.
even.
4/5. He's a 4/5. How could I forget? Whoever designs blue white cards has like a favorite character from each, like, something, and this is their favorite character this time. Their last favorite character was Kanan. This is just calling it out, but here's my hero call. No, but whatever the case may be, I mean, this guy's just overloaded, I feel, and that's a good thing, right? Like, he's a legendary. He's going to be a great thing. I mean, they're wanting you to have the synergy with Grogu, so it's like, okay, you gave Grogu a lightsaber. Now he's got 8 health. You've been chipping at him the whole time. Well, guess what? I healed all the damage now that we're on turn 6. So everything you've done, I've put 2 shield tokens on him. By the way, the Force is with me is in my hand for next turn. And, you can just keep going, and then they just drop this calculated lethality, and you feel awful.
Yo.
So
Well,
I'm
turn
glad that
6.
they're giving an answer.
Turn 6 is also when your leader comes out too, so you're getting double Mandoed on the same turn.
Oh, good
Yep.
lord. Yeah. I'm very big on villainy so far in this game. I think I've always been for villainy. Even like when I was a kid watching Star Wars, I loved Darth Vader. I loved Boba Fett. I know it's something weird, right? Like I loved Darth Vader when I was a kid. I thought he was the business. I thought he just had this hulking presence, this dude. I mean, I remember going to Rogue One. The first time I saw Rogue One, my eyes were, I mean, if the whole theater was in silence when that room went dark and when
Yep.
that lightsaber lit up, you'll never experience that again. How the whole theater at once just had this like, oh shit, and then everybody was cheering. And it's like, we're cheering for the bad guy right now. Like, what do you mean? Like,
Yeah.
so I've always been a villainy guy, but stuff like this makes me really want to be like, how can you beat this? Like on paper, how do you beat this right now on paper, right? I mean, you feel that way about a lot of things, but this just feels incredible. I mean, throw Kanan in this deck. Now you have a 4-cost ground unit, a 6-cost ground unit, a 2-cost ground unit that are all just incredible. And it's all because they're blue, yellow, white, which is, a pretty good combination so far. So we'll see. Time will tell, right? Time will tell. All right, Mr. GrowGoods.
Yeah, I think blue white is like it's a powerful combination on paper. Whenever I try to make it work like in an actual game, I feel like I'm just like one step behind. So I'm glad they keep giving it like strong tools that push it forward. Will it be too far forward in this set? Who knows? But just happy to try to make it work. Yeah. All right, Zach, bring us home with Phase
All
3
right.
Dark Trooper.
This guy looks pretty cool too. He's very evocative of the calculated lethality art as well. But I think this guy's even cooler looking. So we've got a 3-cost command villainy ground unit, phase 3 Dark Trooper, and he has 3 attack, 3 health. Has Imperial, Droid, and Trooper traits. We can go back to that in a moment, but that's kind of stacked in the trait department. And then he's got Sentinel, and when combat damage is dealt to this unit, give an experience token to him if it survives the damage. So, a 3/3 Sentinel for 3 that can potentially grow seems quite nice, especially when you consider that this guy does work pretty well with Gideon, because it will let him attack as a 4 attack. Now you do have to kind of hit into things that have maybe more health than they do attack, because otherwise you're trading and you're not going to get the XP. But something that immediately pops out to me is you get this guy down the same turn that your opponent gets Yoda down, and this guy just craps all over Yoda if you use Gideon to buff him up to a 4/3 because he kills Yoda. And then sure they get a draw card, but then you're left with a 4/2 Sentinel after that as well that your opponent still has to take out. So seems pretty solid. And as I was noting, the fact that it has the Imperial and Trooper tags are both quite strong. There's a lot of synergies with those in the first set. This could actually be pretty solid for Tarkin, probably. I'll let Mike talk more to that, but seems like if you can load this guy up with some XP, just makes it more likely that he survives and keeps snowballing. And then the droid trade is something that we don't see a ton of support for yet, but I'm sure that'll eventually come up, whether it's this set or future sets.
Miguel?
Yes. As you might have saw, I did my sand people very excited Tarkin chant because we can buff this guy up. And you know what when I first saw this, what I thought? This guy is cell block guard plus for green.
Power creep.
There's no reason that this guy should not be played either with cell block guard or it replaces. And I think cell block guard is good. I don't think it's bad. I think it's good. But the fact that he now exists, throw him in, fit him somewhere. I don't care where. Put him in. Tarkin can buff this guy up. Great. Now he's a 4-3 if you let him stay on the board. For some reason you didn't attack him or whatever the case may be, you don't have the initiative. Now he's a 4-3. Well, now he survived your attack. He's a 5-2 or a 5-1. Or actually he'd be a 4-4. And now he's a, he survived that, takes 2 damage, lives. Now he's a 5-4, right? Because he took 2 damage. No, he'd be a 5-3.
Be a 5-3, but yeah, with Sentinel as well.
Because you gained one with Sentinel.
And
he's
the funny thing is if they try to trade into him with small stuff, they just keep making it harder. Like there's going to be breakpoints where like small units are not going to be able to actually team up to trade into him because he just keeps growing enough to maybe be out of range. So your opponent's going to have to be very careful with those breakpoints and make sure that they don't get in a situation where it's like, oh, he's a maybe he got buffed up a couple times. He's a 5-5. Now my 2-2 and my 3-3 can't even like combine to kill him like they would against most units because he's going to grow after the first hit. So yeah, I feel like if you can buff him up, he's great. But yeah, to your point, in green decks, he's just a better cell block guard. And so if you run that, you could either replace him or if you just want more units in that slot, put him in as well. So yeah, definitely seems like he's got some quite good potential. Also, kind of fun one to mess around with the self-lethality play that you were talking about before, because he's going to pump himself up all on his own, and then you can maybe shuffle that off to another unit, including your leader, when it looks like he's going to go down otherwise.
I'm going to nickname this guy Bruce, because when you attack him, you're making him angry. You're not going to like him when he's angry. Like, you cannot deal with this guy early because he's just going to keep leveling himself up. And then if you have somebody like Tarkin, who this is probably going to be one of Tarkin's like staple cards. I really feel that way. Once this comes out, I think every Tarkin deck is going to have this, because you're basically double experiencing every turn at minimum. And if he can survive 2 attacks in one turn and get 2/2 for free, it's insane. You're basically getting 3 experience per turn. Like, that's the gabagoo. Like, that's it. I could probably talk another card. All these cards, I feel like we can talk about for hours on end of why this is. We can do this. We can do that. And that's what makes the game good, right? Like, even as this next set's coming out, we're still going back to set 1, and we're talking about how it fits in so perfectly with these decks, and I hope that continues. I would love to see Tarkin not fall off. I would love to see that. But I think inevitably he will, right? Like, in a sense, he will.
The Moth never falls off.
The other thing that I really like, too, is just, like, if you do pair him with Tarkin, if you want to, you either have to get him down a turn and, like, on turn 2 and not immediately XP him, or save him till turn 3 so you can get the XP on him right after. But that gives your opponent some windows to deal with him, because if you get him out of turn early unprotected, like before you can buff him up, if they have something that's got 3 attack, or even something smaller that has raid or something like a lot of heroism stuff does, they can potentially trade into him before you can start buffing him out of range. And if you wait until turn 3, then maybe they've got a 4-drop that they can trade with him. I think he'll still be really good, especially with the Tarkin stuff, just based on what I've seen so far. But there is still that counterplay available because of how the action passing works in this game and how initiative works. That means that it's not like, oh, well, if my opponent has this, I'm just dead. So it's one of the things that I love to see, where there's a lot of room for stuff to go crazy if your opponent can't answer it, but there's a lot of windows to, try to mitigate that, and that whole back and forth is what makes this game so much fun, in my opinion.
Mm-hmm.
I really like how this guy synergizes with either like the permanent or temporary stat buffing that Green likes to do.
Mm-hmm.
Just definitely make this guy like a 5/5 on the 4 resource turn, and if your opponent has anything on the board, well, now they're just like, well, shit, can't really deal with this right now. And I like his interaction with Raid, because if he has initiative, then he eats those all day because they have the smaller attack when they're defending.
Yep.
But like you said, when it's the flip side, when they're attacking into him, it's probably a little bit more even. But yeah, I agree with Mike. I think this card might be like a staple in green black decks going forward, just because of how snowbally it can be. And if you get that much of an advantage early in the game, gonna really set you up well. I just don't like that he fights for the same slot as Super Laser Tech.
Oh yeah, that's tough. You're right. I didn't think of that. That's tough. Oof.
But you know,
We'll see.
if your
We'll
opponent,
see.
if you're in the mirror match, he eats the DJ Death Star
Yeah.
and gets the experience. So who knows?
Yeah, he might not be as attractive in like a ramp deck, but a deck that wants to play like more for tempo and board is where I think he'll see like that staple status.
So yeah, if you guys had to pick your favorite card of the cards revealed, which one would it be?
That's tough.
I'm gonna have to go with the Mando unit. Grogu's close, I think, but the Mando unit is just. I've been loving more and more when playing that blue green Hera deck, the vigilance heroism stuff. Love myself a Luke and Yoda and Kanan, like all that stuff is a lot of fun. He doesn't have direct synergy with like a lot of that Force stuff, but I still think he'd slot pretty well into that. And I think just in general, like opening up a lot of like blue yellow stuff, which I haven't personally explored as much, seems really interesting too, just with how he pairs with the rest of the cards here from the starter decks. So yeah, that's probably my pick.
Michael?
I'm
Well,
stuck
are you
between
gonna?
four finger Grogu and Dark Trooper, man. It's just so good. I think it's got to be Dark Trooper. This card's just insane. This card's just got to be good. I don't see how this card is bad, because it's Cellbar guard, which we already have, plus. That's just so good. And I've been saying it for a while. I think we've all been saying it. I don't think anybody disagrees with me. Droid is gonna do something, right? Like IG-88 is not a weak leader because of IG-88's a weak leader because of where he's at now. Where in the future, I do think he'll just show up. I also think we'll see more. Well, I don't know. There's a lot, but it's just Dark Trooper. I really like Grogu though. I don't play a lot of heroism, so it's really hard for me to, you know, um, turn around and say, "Hey, this is going to be the best." But it just feels so good to have a Force unit 2 cost that has 5 health. It doesn't matter. I mean, I think the reason that Wills was it Guardian of the Wills? Is that right?
Mm-hmm.
Um, it's a 2 health, so people see it and they're like, "Oh, they're going to do something for us. Kill it with fire," and you can because it's 2 health. You just can. Where this one, it's like, "Oh, this is 5 health. Now I have to do this to get rid of it," and that's tough. That's tough. So, what do you think, Mister GrowGoods? What's the card you like?
My favorite is the light cruiser, because big spaceship go burr.
Spaceship Gober. I love it, man.
So yeah, that will wrap up our first spoiler video. I know when we started recording, I said it'd be a in and out 20-minute adventure.
Let's go, in and out, 20 minutes adventure.
And we're pushing the 75-minute mark right now. So thank you guys for bearing with me.
Of course.
We'll see you around in the future. And as always, like, subscribe, and protect the child. Yay.
Later.
Yay. We're going to start recording prematurely, so that if we say something funny before we start, I can include it.
I didn't even know you could do that. How the hell do you do that?
How do you do
How do you
what?
hide the dice?
If you hit the menu where it says Dice Builder.
Holy cow. It's opened an entire new world.
A whole new world. A place I never been. Somewhere really.
And that's why we start recording prematurely.